I always remember that this region, tolerated me.
Taller.
Tolerated me at my worst, but then they had open arms and they accepted me and they welcomed me back, when I was ready to come back as a helper. And that was it's an honor.
Yeah.
It's an honor, John, because I'm not from here.
Hmm.
I never had a place. I never felt that I had a place, a home. Being in the system at a very young age, not growing up with my family, it just. But then when you have that connection with a place or space or people,
Right.
where you have that sense of belonging, where you feel that deep connection, that's what I feel here. And it's really strange because I'm not from here,
Right.
but I have a deep, deep sense of connection to Waterloo region, and this is where I've made a decision to invest my time.
And I feel like you're helping um, indigenous, non-indigenous people to also find home and grounding. And I mean, we have so many individuals who, in today's context, feel lonely and don't feel like they have a home.
Yeah.
And I think of our indigenous youth, children, young adults who um, have also been completely ripped apart from their traditions, their teachings, all that. And I feel like Crowshield Lodge is helping people find their way back.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I would say there's a lot of people lost in
Yeah.
today's context.
Yeah.
That I feel like this is what you're helping people do in your own story. I think inviting people to do that.
Mm. Yeah, we've created a pathway that has never been in our region before, and it's new. It's scary for some people, but it's up to the individual how far they want to go down that pathway. Because Crowshield Lodge sits on the teachings of the seven grandfathers, which is humility, honesty, truth, bravery, wisdom, love, and respect. And it also sits on the values of the medicine wheel,
Right.
where the white, the red, the black, and the yellow. Those are the original four colors of man, and those quadrants are all equal. So no race is supposed to be here over the other one. So everybody's welcome here. It doesn't matter what color your skin is, what faith you follow, who you believe.
Right.
We just want to get you reconnected to the land. We want to give you a sense of belonging. We want to give you an experience that you've never had before.
Yeah. So I think you've just, I mean, how this idea started of doing this video was a year ago. I said to you,
Mm.
truth and reconciliation. Now we've marked today, September 30th. And I just came to you quite honestly and said, I don't want to do some token thing to say, we've acknowledged it, but
Right.
then nothing changes. And then you and I said, let's do a video. And um, so I'm assuming the wisdom behind that was you trying to model what reconciliation really is. And that is about my understanding of it is, yeah, non-indigenous, indigenous kind of building relationships, addressing the hurt and the wrongs that have been done, building relationships, and trying to find a way forward.
Right.
But it's not in a very traditional, like, strat plan 1, 2, 3 kind of way, right?
Right.
It's relational, and that's also kind of scary and different, right? This isn't about check boxes. This isn't about to-do lists. This is taking risks. This is, and so I'm assuming that's why you wanted to do the video,
Right.
or trying to do it versus another method. But anyways, I wanted to hear why you suggested this.
Well, I think visually, people have to see Indigenous and non-Indigenous people coming together. They have to see, they have to hear, they have to be. Um, but it's time that we bring people together, that we find a new path of understanding as equals. We're in the truth part of reconciliation.
I was hoping you would say that.
It's going to take 7 generations to repair what
Yeah.
was done with the schools and the scoops and all of that stuff. We've gone through 2 generations, so we still have 5 more to go.
Right.
of the truth, more truth, sitting in the truth, feeling the truth, talking about the truth, then possibly we can reconcile. We know what has to be reconciled. I don't know if there'll ever be a time when they're going to come to the Indigenous people and talk about the land, right? So let's put that over there
Okay.
for now. Let's bring in allyship.
Okay.
Let's talk about allyship, which is a verb, means action. Allyship is why we're on this site right here. Our second site, this is Kitchener site. It took us 2.5 years to broker this deal with the region. Nobody else has ever been on a site like this. Nobody has made a land-based site like this, so it was a slow process. Frustrating at times, but well worth it. Because it wasn't for me. It was for us. It was for we. And our first site in New Hamburg with the Fennings. Beautiful people, amazing relationship. Just aligned very organically. The spirit led us. Allies too. They had land. They wanted to connect with Indigenous people and see how they could share it. Access to the land is our biggest barrier. Biggest barrier. Right? Everybody thinks we want the land back. We don't want the land back. Some people do.
Right.
What we want is access to the land. So we can do our healing ceremonies. So we can do our circles. So we can just be on the land, have that connection. But we've had so many barriers, so many barriers, so many barriers. But that's all we want. We want to be able to have a voice at every table,
Yep.
every decision-making table. It'd be great if it would just slow down and say, have we brought the Indigenous perspective in? We want freedom to do our ceremonies. We want to relearn our languages. We want camps for our kids, for our children. We want care for our elders. Because we do things differently, right? But everybody has just always stuffed us into a box.
Yeah. Well, because it's all about control,
Yeah.
power,
Yeah.
and we fear vulnerability. And we become so disconnected from the land that we actually don't know how to interact with it anymore, right? We want to control the land. We want to run over this beautiful kind of stuff with pavement and concrete.
Yeah.
And I hear your voice saying, like, slow down.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, this isn't, I think a lot of the things you've just said, Clarence, about, when I review kind of the 94 calls to action and the truth and reconciliation, like, that's what it's about.
Yeah.
It's education, it's the justice system, it's programming for youth, right? It's being called to the table. And, when I was reviewing it again, I was like some of this is not hard.
No.
It's about choices and decisions, and and it takes time, and but it takes relationship and understanding and learning. And I love that you keep reminding me that there's truth and reconciliation, but we're not at the reconciliation part, and we've got to sit in the truth part, and that's not easy. I think a lot of people feel threatened by that, and they just want to jump to the solution because it's uncomfortable to think about the implications of the scoop, the implication of residential schools, the implications that thousands of children have gone missing, right? Like, I think there's just too much pain and trauma to sit in it, and even for those of us who haven't experienced it, I think it's like, okay, but how do we jump, right? And what I'm learning from you is to say, like, no, I think we have to sit in that. And I have to say, there's so many things I want to say thank you to you for, but you wrote your life story. I don't know, it took you and Seth a good 7 years. You took you took the time to do it.
Wow.
What a journey. And sitting at your book launch was just one of the highlights for me of the last number of years, and just seeing the diversity of people you brought together. But I don't know if you realize what a profound impact your book has had on me.
Mm.
And you would think, like, I knew a lot of parts of your story,
Right.
and you had shared them with me over the years, but you know what your book did for me, Clarence, is I think part of the challenge of sitting in the truth part is you can educate yourself a lot, right? You can read a lot about the 60s scoop, and you could read a lot about residential school, like, and that's a good starting ground.
Right.
Like, I think we all need to do that. Challenge with that is it can become a bit of an academic or a theoretical thing. Do you know what I mean?
Yep.
Like, you know, we could read about the Holocaust happened or some other human tragedy happened that, like, impacted generations. But when I read your story,
Mm-hmm.
and I know you, like, I remember asking you, how does it feel to kind of release this? And you're like, oh my gosh, I want to vomit. Like, it was, you were so nervous, and
Yeah.
because you vulnerably gave your story to the world. But by doing that, I think it made it real, right? Like, all of a sudden, you know, the impact of what happened to your mom and dad
Yeah.
wasn't a theory anymore.
Yeah.
It was real. It was in someone I cared about. And you shared kind of the implications of that for your life.
Yeah.
And in your book, you shared so many painful things that you experienced. And it was hard reading it because I was like, that didn't need to happen.
Mm. Yeah.
And yes, you have, you know, taken that story, and you've kind of done your work, and now your story is, you've given it as a gift to others, and you're making a difference. But I don't know, that's when that stuff became real for me, Clarence.
Yeah.
It went from theory to the atrocious things you had to go through, and your family had to go through, your daughters, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And because of what was done to you and your ancestors, yeah, that was hard. But I think it takes time to let that truth seep in.
Yeah. Yeah. And you shared about sitting with it. Well, we live it.
Yeah.
Right? Like, we live it. It doesn't shut off anytime. The trauma, the pain, the intergenerational dysfunction, it's just in us. And our stories don't start with us. They never start with us. People think that a story is about them, but it's not. It doesn't start with us. It starts with our ancestors. It starts with our parents, our grandmothers and grandfathers. And that's why, as Indigenous people, we always acknowledge them. We always say thank you. When we pray, our ancestors are always in the prayer. Our grandmothers and grandfathers are always acknowledged, because it's the hardships and the prayers that they said is why we're here today.
Yeah.
And thank you for sharing that about the book. It was hard, John. And once I released it, I had an elder tell me, Clarence, this book is amazing. More leaders should write books about themselves. Because it's all right there. There's no question, there's no doubt. You want to know who this individual is? Here's this book.
Yeah.
Right? Here's this book. Because then people know who I am. They know what I'm doing. I'm not from here, but I want to do some really good work here, because it's time. At Crochet Lodge, we don't run Crochet Lodge. I oversee Crochet Lodge. It's run by the Spirit. We don't push things. We don't make them happen. You mentioned power and control before. Ran into some situations with power and control with non-Indigenous people. Saying that, we don't get stuck in the weeds. We don't spend a lot of time going nowhere. We step back, and then we let our allies go in to talk to the non-Indigenous people. That's what we've had to do a bit, because we can't get caught in the weeds. Because some people are there, John, some people aren't. Some people will never understand the intergenerational traumas, the dysfunctions. Some people will just say, get over it. You know, that wasn't my generation, just get over it. And those are the people who are not thinking about their roles and responsibilities to creation.
Yeah.
You know, the past 200 years, we evolved pretty quick. With that evolution, we forgot about our responsibilities. You know, we've managed to pollute the air, pollute the water, pull the trigger on global warming, lose 30% of the plants, animals. That happened in 200 years. What's going to happen in the next 200 years? That's what I'm thinking about. What we're trying to do at Crowshield Lodge is we're trying to be the best ancestor we can be today. For your relations that are coming and my relations that are coming,
Yeah.
have these discussions. Lean into these discussions, create these safe and welcoming places, and start creating pathways for people to come in
Slow down.
and slow down.